How's it going, Knicks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Fireside Knicks. I'm your host, Dylan Becker, and I'm with my brother and co host, Justin Becker. And we got another game to talk about. The Knicks play the game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, their second preseason game. Unfortunately, they dropped this one 121 112. They're now 1-1 on the preseason. It's just the preseason. We're not going to dwell on a loss too much, but there were some interesting takeaways we got from this game. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass it off to Justin and let him start this off. So give us your recap and then your biggest takeaway from this game.
Yeah, so I'm going to declare the season over. How could the Knicks possibly lose? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But obviously the Knicks dropped this game. The final score doesn't really mean that much to me in the preseason. Hopefully, it does not mean that much to anybody in the preseason. I mean, these games don't really count. So anyway, I'm just gonna jump right into it. Basically, RJ started this game off red hot. I believe he was 4 for start this game. He was attacking the basket, very aggressive early on, and he cooled off a little bit, but he ended the game with 23 points, and he was 9 for 12 from the free throw line, which is my biggest takeaway from him because so far in these first two preseason games, he's been money from the free throw line. That's something he struggled with really his entire career. So it's great to see him making strides in that area, and he's being aggressive and attacking the basket, getting to the line and getting points that way. I think that's very effective. Obviously he's not the most efficient player. He's always been kind of a volume scorer, if you will. So if he can get to the line a lot more and play aggressive that way and get points that way, then that's great moving forward. Something else I want to touch on is Evan Fournier played again, and he was pretty good in this game again. He was 6 for 10 from the field, 3 for 6 from three. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say he's going to play his way into the rotation. I know I made a little TikTok about that the other day, so I shouldn't have to get too far into that. You can go check that out. It's on Fireside Knicks on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. So, obviously I'm not going to touch on that, but to see him play like this is pretty encouraging considering he's obviously not in the rotation. He could have just packed it in and been like, oh, I'm not going to play. Who cares? But he's going out there and he's doing his thing and he's actually playing really well. So who knows? Maybe he could end up back in the rotation. I feel like I don't want to say that there is a role for him because the lack of defense is obviously still a glaring issue. So I don't want to definitively say that there's a role on the bench for him, but I think in some small spurts, having him out there is not the worst thing in the world. You can use his spacing; he can still score. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And another thing I want to touch on is Dante DiVincenzo. I thought he was pretty good in this game in the minutes he got. Specifically, he had a sequence, I believe, in the second or third quarter where he had like two breakaway steals and he finished them for dunks. I was like, wow, we haven't really, I hadn't really seen that. Obviously, I haven't watched a whole lot of DiVincenzo in my life, so to see that was pretty encouraging. And Deuce McBride was perfect. He was 6 for 6 from the field, which I thought was pretty interesting. He was 4 for 4 from three. I mean, we kind of know Deuce isn't going to play a whole lot, but hey, that was pretty fun. So other than that, Julius Randle struggled a little bit in this game. He was only 2 for 8, but it's only the preseason. I'm not going to look too far into that and declare him trash or anything. So not a big deal to me. Obviously, Jalen Brunson struggled too. He was only 1 for 6 from the field. Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein both gave quality minutes in this game, I thought. Mitchell Robinson kind of just doing his usual dominant big man stuff. We've seen it thousands of times. He's just bullying people out there. Really, he's just a man amongst boys sometimes. So, obviously the Knicks dropped this one, but I thought there were some good things that we saw. And I'm gonna pass it off to you now.
Right. I thought you hit on some really good points, especially, first off, it was a great recap. First off, I think you hit on everything that needed to be touched on, especially the RJ Barrett free throws thing. That was like one big thing that we had been saying all off season that he really needed to step up in. Obviously, we want him to improve as a three-point shooter too. And while he did only go 2 for 8 from three this game, the free throws is a big step in the right direction from just a shooting standpoint in general. If you can knock down your free throws, you can become a more well-rounded scorer both in the mid-range and the 3 point over time. And so far, like you said, he's been absolutely money from the free throw line. He's drawing fouls too at a good rate. He's getting to the line and he's hitting them. He's taking advantage of the opportunities he's getting at the line. I think that's a huge thing right there. And Evan Fournier as well. Like you said, I don't want to sit here and say he's going to get in the rotation because realistically, I think it's a shot in the dark at this point that he gets in the rotation just because of, the all the vocalness that Fournier had about his role in the offseason and, the clear, awkward relationship he's kind of got with Thibodeau. I just don't see it happening. But I mean, there's clearly some value in there to a degree. Of course, defense, massive liability, massive liability. It's that's big reason why he was out of the rotation because he's literally, he's basically a traffic cone out there on defense. But I mean, they really could use that shooting. They really could use that shooting. I mean, especially if he keeps playing like this, because last season he was pretty ineffective from on the offensive side as well. So it's not like they took away a good shooter and just replaced it with nobody. No, he was being ineffective all around. So that's why I took him out. If he can start shooting like this again, though, I mean, tonight he went 6 of 10 from the floor and 3 of 6 from three. If he can keep shooting like that, not just in the preseason, who knows? Maybe he could find his way into a small role in the rotation. Now, I don't think Fournier is someone that needs to be playing, 20 minutes a night at this stage, and at least on the Knicks. I don't think that's going to be happening. I would be kind of upset if that happens. Realistically, I don't think he's really worthy of playing 20 minutes, just given the lack of defense. But I mean, you and I had this discussion off camera. Him playing in small spurts would not be a bad idea. Especially like if they're in scoring droughts and need to, kind of improve the spacing a little bit, get some extra shooting. Maybe throw him out there and see what could happen. It's worth a shot. I mean, obviously you don't want to tinker with the 9 man probably too much just because it worked so well last season. And I'm sure Tom Thibodeau feels the same way. But I mean, you know, you got to give credit to Fournier where it's due. He's stepping up when really he has to if he wants to keep playing. He's been saying all along that he wants to keep playing. And I mean, so far he's shown that he can still provide somewhat of a positive impact. I'm not going to sit here and act like he's super good, but I mean, I'm not just gonna also act like he's complete garbage right now either because he is playing well. I know it's preseason, don't want to overreact to preseason, but I mean, I like what I'm seeing so far. That's really all I gotta say about that. Now, another thing I want to touch on. I know it's preseason and it is the time to experiment with certain lineups, but if I see another lineup with two centers involving Jericho Sims, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm sorry, but they need to stop that. They need to stop trying it. It is not going to work. In today's NBA, your power forward's got to be able to space the floor, and Jericho Sims cannot space the floor. And our two main centers really are not the best at floor spacing either. I know Isaiah Hartenstein has a little bit of spacing to his game, but we all know that's not his strong suit. We know he's not shooting the ball and all that stuff. His spacing is more so making plays inside, whether it's passing or offensive rebounds, all that type of stuff. We don't really have shooting bigs on this team if you don't count Julius Randle as a big. So they can't keep running that two center lineup with Sims, man. It's not. I don't think it's gonna work. We're probably gonna end up seeing more of it in the preseason just because it's preseason. And if there is a time to test it out, like I said, this would be now. But they tried it last season too, and it was awful. It was awful last season, and quite frankly, I don't want to see it anymore. But at the end of the day, I'm probably going to end up seeing it again the next game they play in this preseason. So we're just going to see if maybe somehow they'll improve in that regard. But it looks like the whole, Sims backup four situation is just not going to happen. It looks like they're just going to run the 9 man if they don't insert like Fournier back into the rotation or whatever. It looks like they're just going to have like Hart and RJ Barrett kind of split that backup 4 minutes. But one other takeaway I have, I almost forgot to mention this. Quentin Grimes struggled in this one. He played 22 minutes today and he went 2 of 5 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3, and he only had 4 points and was a -6 plus minus on the floor. Was actually the only starter with a negative plus minus. I know it, plus minus is a ticky-tacky stat. I don't like, using that too much, but I want to see this man shoot the ball more. It looked like, off rip that he was going to have a solid game because he had that dunk in like the first couple minutes. Looked like he was going to be aggressive, and then he just like stopped shooting. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he just wasn't really getting his open looks as he would have hoped. But I mean, we have Grimes on the floor, not just for his defense. Of course, his defense is like a big factor why he's out there, but we value his shooting too. So if he can shoot, like if he shoots more shots, then that's going to be a huge plus for the Knicks offense. But if he's going to be, shying away from shots again like he was doing last season, that's problematic to a degree. Maybe and if that continues, maybe DiVincenzo ends up taking his spot in the line in the starting five. I don't necessarily say that's going to happen right now because it is preseason. There's still a lot of time for him to get some more shots up, get better volume. But I mean, I want to see more from Grimes. I feel like I'm not seeing enough out of him, unfortunately, and it really sucks because he's like my big breakout candidate for the year. And quite frankly, a lot of people agree with me on that. A lot of people have had Grimes as a big breakout candidate, a guy that can average close to 15, 16 points a game if he steps up his game. And he really has the tools to be that good, but he just needs to grow some confidence. I really think the confidence is not fully there yet, and I want to see more out of him. Those are some of my biggest takeaways from this game. Again, it's preseason. Things aren't going to be like too, definitive right now, but still interesting to talk about it. But I'm going to pass it off to you, kind of let you, give us some more takeaways on this game and anything else you got to add.
Yeah, I thought you hit on some pretty good points there, especially the Grimes thing. Obviously his kind of lack of confidence, if you will, has kind of been a thing for a while now. It's been a reoccurring theme really his whole career. And you want to see him just be aggressive. You know, he's got the tools to be aggressive. He's great at attacking closeouts. He's great at shooting the ball. I mean, his jump shot is pretty much unblockable. It's a very quick, very high release. I don't know why he doesn't shoot the ball more often. He gets found in the corner quite a lot. So I really want to see him shoot the ball more often. Like you said, we really need his spacing and his 3 point shooting in the offense, like you said. So I do want to see him be more aggressive. Obviously, I know a lot of his energy is on defense too. He's pretty much our best defender on the team if you don't count Mitchell Robinson. So I know a lot of his energy is spent on that end of the floor. But on offense, you do want to see him be more aggressive. I do agree with that. Obviously, it's just preseason, so who knows what he's planning on working on right now in the preseason. You know, so he could be trying something different. But I do agree. I want him. I want him to be much more aggressive in the offense. I think he's one of the more gifted offensive players in the lineup. I mean, he's got really everything. He can shoot, he can drive, he can pass. I mean, he's a very skilled player. I want to see him be more aggressive. I think, like you said, he's a breakout candidate for pretty much every Knicks fan out there, including myself and you. So, yeah, I do want to see him be more aggressive. But other than that, I think you hit on a lot of excellent points. And, I don't really have much else to add to this other than hopefully we keep seeing good things the rest of the preseason and hopefully it carries into opening night next in the next couple weeks, whenever that is.
Right, and I just want to emphasize too, in preseason, we're not really paying too deeply to the outcome of the game because, I mean, if you guys did watch the game, they had a closing lineup with Dylan Windler and Jericho Sims in there. So, two guys that are not going to play at all. Those guys were in closing minutes of quite frankly, a close game. It was a pretty close game throughout. I think the largest lead was like, I don't know, like 15, 14. It wasn't like a blowout per se. Yeah, they lost by 9, but it was a pretty close game throughout. So we don't look too deeply into the outcome of preseason. We're more so looking at, what we're seeing out of the guys that we know are going to play and even guys that aren't going to play. For example, Evan Fournier coming into this preseason, we're like, oh, he's not going to play at all. I mean, he's playing well right now and he's making it a little interesting. I'm sure, deep down, he's probably going to fall short of making it back in the rotation. I don't know if he's going to exactly win Tom Thibodeau over, but I mean, I respect Fournier for making it a little close, making it a little bit interesting and kind of forcing Thibodeau to kind of at least consider him as an option. Like I said, I don't know if he's going to go ahead and pull the trigger and put him back in, but I respect him trying to make a case for it. But everything else, like you said, the centers were good tonight. Robinson and Hartenstein. Barrett, obviously, he was kind of ice cold in the second half, but overall, he had a good game. We're not going to sit here and say, oh, he's being inconsistent again. No, he had a good game. He had a good game, 23 points in preseason. We will take that every single time. I was very encouraged by his performance still, very encouraged by the free throws especially. There were a lot of encouraging things about this game, even though they lost. Yes, the three-point defense was not fantastic. They let Naz Reid get 5 threes off him, and Jordan McLaughlin turned into Steph Curry in the fourth quarter. So those were some discouraging signs, but those have been issues for a while, the 3-point defense. So we're hoping that, in the regular season when these starters are going to be playing a lot more minutes, obviously, and that they play more together in practice and stuff right leading up to opening night, that they tighten that up a little bit. And hopefully, guys like Quickly and Grimes and stuff and Hart as well can lock down that perimeter because that's going to be needed huge during the regular season. If they want to be successful, they got to shut down the three. That's like the big thing because they have the rim protection, but they need that perimeter to be locked up too. Those are some of my biggest takeaways, but with that being said, I mean, I got nothing much else really to say. So to wrap this up, the Knicks play their next preseason game on Tuesday against the Boston Celtics again. This time, though, it's going to be in the TD Garden, not Madison Square Garden. So we'll make sure to have you guys covered with that one as well. Make sure you guys check us out on all of our social platforms. We're on X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, of course, this YouTube page. The audio version of these podcasts are going to be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating on those. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on this video. We hope you enjoyed our post-game recap and reactions, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.